Are you looking for a new coding platform? Well, we're going to meet the guys at Dodona Learning.
Hello, welcome back to another episode at the Chalk Face. We've got an exciting one for you this week. We've got some guests on. So we often hark on about time to code on our amazing programming website, but we're very honest about it. It doesn't obviously have all those features that you'd want for classroom management, automated testing, assignment setting. It really is just a website with content to teach you programming in a pedagogical way. So, we plug our product into others. We've talked to you about Go Code It. Well, we've got another one to tell you about. It's the guys from Dodona. I'm going to bring them in straight away. So here they are. We've got Matthias and Peter. I'll come over to you just in a quick second, but very quickly, how do we know them? We met, I want to say, Dave, at the CAS conference. Yeah, 2025.
Yeah,
so I don't think we'd ever seen you before. You were literally the table next to us, all around the corner, and we got chatting. And anyway, one thing led to another, and obviously we learnt about their product. We've invited them to our festival, by the way, so they're going to be at the Festival of Computing in July, and one of our sponsors. So thank you very much. And they showed us their product, which, as I suggested, is a platform for helping students and teachers with programming. But that really doesn't sell it well enough. It was quite phenomenal. Dave, do you want to say just a little bit about our journey with these guys, and then we can sort of hand over and get you to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, so, we're in that climate now where teachers are eternally frustrated by the fact that coding platforms are coming and going. We all remembered coding rooms. Everybody enjoyed that. It came and it went. We all remember Replit, and it came and it went. And we are remembering Trinket as well, because although it's still available at the moment, later on this year, it's going to disappear. So again, another one is gone. And I'll be honest with you guys, the teachers in the UK and around the world, to be fair, are getting absolutely fed up with products that come and products that go. And they're leaving teachers high and dry because they've put all their effort and resource into learning how to use these products. They've put their schemes of learning into the products. They've got their students familiar with those products. And then they pull the rug and they're left high and dry looking for new programming platforms for their students. And so I think one of the lessons that we're learning is that when a company is profit driven and they're looking at the pounds and pence, they come to the conclusion eventually that the education market doesn't really have as much money as the private sector. And as a result, they then pull the educational arm. And that's what's happening. But you guys are different because you didn't start out with an aim to make money and be profit driven. You started out, actually, as I understand it, from the research of teaching and learning with programming, and actually being in education yourselves and needing a tool for your own students. So perhaps you could give us a little bit about your backstory. Who are you and how did you get into programming?
Yeah, well, I like that. I like the how do you get into programming questions. Right, now, very quickly, Peter, you know how I have a go at Dave in lots of these episodes about talking a lot? I've met a man here who can talk more than Dave. So Peter, I'm going to challenge you to be succinct.
Okay, I got into problem very, very early on as a kid myself, but then turned professional in the sense that I'm a university professor. So I'm teaching 18-year-olds at the university that start in biology or geography, which are all becoming very data-driven disciplines nowadays. And so they all need to know how to automate data processing and so on. So when they start university, they also get programming classes. So that's how I got into programming myself. And I just wanted a wingman because I have more than 500 students. So that's not an easy task because you cannot sit next to every student. So I was actually dreaming of this platform that could be a sidekick and actually assist me in any way I could possibly do. And of course, I have a team. I have a team of people, but we're only having 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So that was the challenge.
Yeah, I like this. I'm trying not to interrupt as much as possible, but this is another reason we are keen to make you, our audience, aware of Dodona. The same way we were prepared to make you aware of Go Code It, another solution produced by a teacher. You were finding a problem to overcome to help you with the fact that you said you have 500 students and assist you. And I think these solutions, when they're developed by teachers who understand the problems and the pressures and the time, that resonates more. So, I mean, it's worth saying again, like we said, with Go Code It, there's no financial arrangement here. Time to code is free and always will be. You just see an excellent product that we think is worth telling you about, and they are very kindly putting our time to code scheme in it. So this is brilliant. So Matthias, what about yourself?
So, hi Craig, hi Dave. Thanks for having us. It's a great opportunity to be part of this series. I think your introduction was quite comprehensive on Dodona. And indeed, we have been around quite a while. So my journey with Dodona started 2 years ago when I co-founded the company as a spin-off from the University of Ghent, together with Peter here in the call, and also Bart Mesure, who is the third co-founder. But the platform has been around for almost a decade now. It started in 2015 as a programming solution that Peter and Bart developed for their own purposes at the University of Ghent. As Peter was saying, to develop their own wingman to support them in their programming classes. But then eventually the platform spread across Flanders just by word of mouth. The platform has been adopted by almost all secondary schools and universities here in Flanders. We have over 25,000 students on the platform per year. And this is just based on experience. I think the real kickstart for Dodona with secondary schools in Flanders happened when one of the first pilot schools started to use the platform. And then they came first in the national coding competition of Belgium that year. And then a lot of schools picked this up. They saw the experience that the school had with the platform. And then eventually, one after another, we had schools adopting the platform. And so we always keep laughing about this. But when I first met Peter and Bart like 2 years ago, I asked them, like, where are your marketing materials? How do you do this? And Peter was saying, well, we have no marketing materials. We never go to conferences. We never put out a brochure. We don't even have a professional website. We just have this great platform, and it's being adopted by teachers across Flanders. Until the point 2 years ago that the university was actually with a luxury problem because the platform became too big to support it still at university. It was taking too much bandwidth from the researchers behind the platform to do the support, to further develop the platform. And so they were looking at a way to sustain it in the future. And one of the options was to spin it out as a separate commercial company, which we did, and launch it as a paid-for product in the market, but still completely focused on education. And actually still today, the biggest user of the platform is the University of Ghent. We have over 5,000 students at the university. So we still keep developing the platform for our own purposes at the university. But in parallel, schools worldwide can now adopt the platform and start using it in their own programming classrooms.
I think you're hitting a couple of interesting things there, sort of very quickly highlight, and sort of Dave has some questions. Yeah, it's worth saying this is not a brand new product. You just heard there, it's adopted by a vast majority of students. It's been around for 10 years. It's just that you're now starting to get, well, if this works for students across Belgium, why can't we use this and roll this out to other students? So, or this might be the first time you're here. I mean, we only heard about it recently. This is well established and works and has, as you said, tens of thousands of students using it successfully. So that's really nice. There's a proven record there that's been used in education already. This is not a new product. It's just new to the UK market, is probably fair to say.
Yeah, so Peter, you talked about, the problems of having 500 students. And as you said, these aren't computer science students. These are students that are studying other disciplines. And you're looking at this from a data science angle, which is really interesting, and the programming with data science. So I'm sure this is going to resonate with teachers up and down the UK, but perhaps you could just tell us a little bit about the problems that you were facing as a teacher and then also the problems that maybe your students were facing, which led you to a point where you needed to develop a platform to solve these problems. What problems were you facing?
Well, I would say that the most important problem I was faced with is like providing feedback to students, because programming is something very interactive. So you have this iterative cycle of like starting with an idea and then turning it into code, and it doesn't work, and you have to figure out where's the mistake, and you try again. And so trying again and making mistakes is part of the programming process. And I wanted to get feedback in that. So how can you give feedback to even 20 students at the same time? And that's a hard challenge. And so I was looking for ways of providing feedback, because you can find different ways of providing feedback. For example, a debugger in an IDE is a very good way of providing feedback. But most of these tools are developed for professionals. But learners face different challenges. Even interpreting error messages can be a very daunting task, left alone if you have a debugger that only allows you to step forward and not backwards, because sometimes you bump into an error that you observe, but the mistake was earlier in the code. So how can you go back? Also to have like a good idea on, for example, how the data structures are represented in computer memory. It's sometimes very abstract. So we wanted to find ways of making this as clear as possible for students. And luckily enough, my partner in crime, Bart, he's a master in data visualization. So he's even teaching a course in data visualization. So we were actually bringing every skill we had to the table to see if we could reasonably automate certain tasks. So for example, the easiest way to provide feedback in an automated way is saying to the students, oh, you're wrong, here's the right solution. But from a pedagogical perspective, this is not the best way forward. You should actually bring feedback in small snippets, but that takes a lot of time, because it's also very individual. Everybody's stuck at a different problem. So looking for things that work well in practice, that don't replace teachers, because that was never the goal, that actually assist teachers in a way that you're not out of the loop. This was a second thing that we wanted to figure out. Because, for example, if you get a question from a student, usually there's a lot behind the question. Or if you get a question 3 times, that should make you think, okay, there might be something that could be improved in the way I explain stuff, and so on. So scaling up feedback, I would say that was the prime goal, and actually make students work on their own as much as possible without being felt left alone. Because if you're stuck somewhere in a program, it can also be very frustrating. So we see internationally, we see a lot of like dropouts from people from coding, and that's not because programming is fun. It's challenging, but you should find ways where students feel like they're inspired by the idea of programming, but also that they find help in how to do that.
Yeah, it's that feedback and visualization that I really think is quite unique in the Dodona platform. I was just reading on your website where you say, Dodona is an intelligent practice platform that turns programming assignments into a feedback-rich learning loop. Perhaps you could just elaborate a little bit more on that, what you really mean by a feedback-rich learning loop.
Well, actually, the idea is that students program. They can either program in the platform, or they can program offline in an IDE, and then submit solutions. And every time they submit the solution, they get instant feedback. Actually, the component of Dodona that provides the feedback is not hard-coded in the platform. It's what we call a judge. People can add content to the platform, and part of what they can add is that judge. So that is like a testing framework that can test on different criteria, and provides that feedback. For example, does the code work? Have you thought about some corner cases that weren't implemented or were badly implemented? What about programming style? For more advanced courses, you can even think about the performance. Does it run fast enough? Does it consume too much memory? If it's like a design task, has it been properly designed? So that's the kind of feedback that can come every time a student submits. So you see this development cycle coming through the process of like a student thinks about a solution, implements a solution, submits to Dodona, gets feedback. Based on that feedback, the student can figure out what's wrong in my code, remedy it, submit again. So that's the life cycle that is very common to the programming process. I think hardly any programmer writes a result right away. So it's a process that keeps on going.
So critically, it's not just about unit testing. You know, we've got lots of products out there at the moment where, you know, students will write a function, they'll write a program, and they'll run some unit tests, and those unit tests will say whether it's passed or failed those unit tests. Dodona goes beyond that.
Well, we do unit testing. We also do integration testing. For example, what Dodona provides very simplistically, you have this output, but there's a difference between your output and the expected output. You can actually, at the side of the judge, have very relaxed comparison, so it shouldn't be identically the same. Me personally, I'm actually in favor for having also output specified very well in your assignment, and then students have to follow this. So if there's a small mistake in the output, that shouldn't matter, because the same holds for program code. If you forget part of the syntax or you have the syntax wrong, also your compiler will complain. So I do the same thing for the output, but again, you can relax it. But then we also, for example, have a very interactive and visual time-of-flight debugger, where students have a very visual view on the different components of their code and execution. For example, they can see the call stack growing and shrinking. They can see variable references. You can even use this. I use this in my class to explain things like scope. You have the different active parts of your call stack, and then references that are active or passive. So the kind of insights you explain in your videos or your courses can actually be also seen by the students live on their code. And that, yeah.
If I could jump in there a second, sorry. I mean, that live debugging, looking at the call stacks, the variables that I watched in the demo and we saw is one of the most impressive features I saw. I mean, we're used to it. If you use Visual Studios, you're used to watch windows and call stacks, but more and more schools are having issues installing Visual Studios. A lot of you aren't even using that. At GCSE are using Python. Well, here it doesn't matter. This is web-based. This is the first thing to say. It's web-based, so we can get rid of all those issues we have in UK schools. The technicians won't allow me to install this IDE or that IDE, but the tracing of the program and being able to help, because we know what it is. A student gets stuck, I can't see it, they stop and they give up. And that's the point, isn't it? There's only one of you and 30 of them. And with this product, I can say, well, when the program stopped, did you open up the tools to show you? And of course, they need to know where to look, and teaching them those skills of where to go. Right, well, have a look. What does that variable say at that moment? And it was really visual. It's really easy. Right, also, your program one line. That gives them the skills. Go on,
and
Dave.
also, Craig, being able to go backwards through the code. I've got to underline this because I've never seen anything that allows the students to kind of rewind in real time, sort of statement by statement, the program. We're all very familiar with the program runs and it stops. And at that point, you can, as you say, investigate the call stack. You can look at the values of the variables and things like that. But then your only real option from there is to maybe fix your error or whatever's happening, and then to step through the rest of the program or run the program to the end of the procedural function or run the program again to its entirety. You don't have that option to say, hang on a minute, we've got a problem, but I don't really know what's caused the problem to result in that variable having that value. Let's rewind step by step. And if I understand correctly, guys, that's what Dodona will do.
Correct, and maybe just to highlight on here on the visual debugger and the online IDE we've built, this is actually on purpose developed for the secondary education, because it's another problem you have at schools installing software. Literally, teachers already have limited time to give computer science classes in secondary education. If you lose your first class with installing software on students' laptops, that's a hassle. So we've developed a fully plug-and-play platform where the teacher can just get started in the browser without any installation being required. So that was the main problem we sought to overcome with Dodona. And the other one also on the automated feedback and the visual debugger. It also helps to learn. It also helps students to become more independent, and it frees up time for teachers. They don't have to go manually correct syntax errors and the like. That's all done automatically by the platform, and then the teacher can free up time and then really use that time for those students that are in need, or really challenge students that are more advanced or ahead of the group.
I think that's one of the biggest benefits of this sort of thing. Sorry to interrupt there, Matthias, because we know whenever a student has a problem in a class, whether it's theory or programming that requires teacher intervention, that is time that you can't get back from the lesson. And answering a question on theory is one thing. Helping debug a student's piece of code, especially as they get more advanced, they're big time sinks. And you end up with a class full of hands up with students thinking, I can't solve my own problem because I need to wait for Sir. Well, I spent 5 minutes over here and I've got a 50-minute lesson. So A, having a tool which can help them and give them that feedback, and B, it gives them the functionality to be able to help investigate their own problems, so they have to put their hand up less. That's one of the biggest problems, not just with teaching, but with programming specifically. The helping students is much more of a time sink, I find, Dave, in a programming lesson than a sort of a general theory. Oh, I don't understand that. Oh, read the bottom of page 12. It's not as quick as that. You have to get in there and look at it. Even a simple program will take you a little while, because you need, unless you're going to take the student's keyboard and type and correct the code, you need to explain to them. So a tool that helps with that problem is so useful.
One of the hot potatoes at the moment is AI, and the thing that has really frustrated a lot of teachers is that in the rush to introduce AI into seemingly every single product out there, what's happened with some of the programming platforms is that they've introduced AI in a way that essentially the AI completes the program for the student. And as a result of introducing AI, they've taken the learning out. And I just wonder what your thoughts are in terms of AI in programming and where you see AI with Dodona.
Well, it's definitely the hottest discussion point also here at our university. I would say a lot of teachers are actually at the learning phase again. So what is the impact of AI on the learning process? It has a huge impact. So figuring out what the answers are, I think nobody knows yet. Everybody is like experimenting and exploring. And of course, we're adopting the technology in Dodona. It has massive applications. I was actually writing a Parsons code editor for the Time to Code track last Sunday. So it has a massive benefit, especially for professional programmers, because they are very well equipped to evaluate what the AI does for them. And that's the problem for education. If you're a new learner, you have no idea how it can impact your own learning effect, but it's very appealing to actually resort to the AI and let it do stuff for you. So what we do for Dodona is, for the moment, we have zero AI support for students, zero. The reason for that is we wouldn't even know what would be the best way to support students using AI. I see a lot of people, I think almost everybody builds a chatbot without guardrails, and then figures out that none of the students is using it because they have this other AI bot that has no guardrails. So that's not what we're doing. So we have a PhD running for the moment.
That will be music to a lot of teachers' ears, I have to tell you, because at the end of the day, students have to sit an examination where they are challenged to either complete a program or write a program. And if they're so used to AI doing it for them, then they don't have the skills to be successful in exams. Now, that's not to say that those skills aren't really useful when you take the next stage in your life and you actually are a programmer and you want to take the tedium out of some of the code, or you want to use AI as a colleague to assist. Of course, there are valid cases for using AI in programming. We don't deny that at all. But these students have to do an examination where they have to understand the code and what it's doing and be able to debug it for themselves. And so if AI just takes all that pain away from the students, as I said, you lose the learning. And so I think it's quite refreshing to hear that you're taking the stance of, let's think about how AI can enhance the learning, not enhance the code.
Yeah. But you mentioned, Dave, that AI takes the learning out of the process. We also see it takes the teacher out of the process. So with Dodona, you can have students ask questions on the platform, and then a teacher can respond to that. We actually see a dramatic drop in questions on the platform being asked by students, because they just go outside to the new best friend. They go to Gemini, they go to ChatGPT. In response to that, what we have done now in terms of AI development, we've built an AI enhanced approach, whereby if a student is asking a question to the teacher, with the help of AI, we provide a draft answer ready to the teacher, but the teacher still needs to review it, approve it, and submit it to the students. So we really keep the teacher in the loop with this. But this AI approach has been based on an ongoing PhD, whereby we look at the curriculum, we look at the learning path, we look at the place of the student in the learning path, we look at the previous admissions, and we only provide hints of an answer. So we don't give the full solution away in the draft answer. It only gives hints to the students, and then the student can, again, with the automatic feedback, adjust the code, resubmit, and learn by doing.
Yeah, this is really good. I mean, this is another reason we were so keen to get these guys on and tell you about Dodona. In the same way we've been telling you about Go Code It, and we're very proud to have Time to Code being plugged into both these products, because these are being written by teachers, written by educators. You know, they understand the pedagogy of the journey, the problems teachers have, the problems students have. And as I say, I'm so glad we bumped into you at CAS. I mentioned the demo because one thing we've veered away from today is showing you a demo of the product. I mean, and we know a lot of people listen to this on podcasts, obviously that wouldn't work. But also, even if you're watching on YouTube, we couldn't give you an effective demo without sitting through 2-3 hours, because it is fair to say it's one of the most feature-rich platforms I've ever seen for this. It's clear that you've been developing it for a long time. But you do have an excellent walkthrough demo and a very good website. So I don't want to, stop. I'll let you get any other sort of key questions you want to get in. I don't want to leave this video without you having said everything you want to say, but I feel like we must mention the website. So if you want to learn more, I am sharing now the website. It's dodona.be. Excellent website, and you see some impressive stats there. 26 million solutions submitted, 2,000 schools, 100,000 students, maybe new to the UK market, but a well-respected and successful platform. And it was that page where I found a really good walkthrough demonstration video. And off the bat of that, I said, Dave, I think we need to have a little chat with these guys and see what they have. So if you want to learn more about the features and what it is, excellent website, dodona.be.
And it would be fair to say, coming back to the point I made right at the very beginning, this can't just be here today and gone tomorrow, because as you say, nearly everyone in the Netherlands is using this as their program. Belgium. Sorry, Belgium. Yeah.
Maybe the Netherlands not too long. I mean, you guys are going all over Europe.
Well, who knows? By the time I say this, what I said may be true, right? But yeah, absolutely. So this is used extensively throughout Belgium, and therefore, it's not one of those things that is just a startup and we'll see how it goes. No, not at all. This is being used by thousands and thousands of students already, and universities as well, which depend on it.
Yeah. Gonda, I was going to say, in terms of Time to Code, where are we with how much of our content is actually in there? So if you're thinking, I'd like this, but I want to follow Time to Code. Peter here in Fair has been working very closely with Dave to shove Time to Code. And I want to say most objectives are in already, most chapters. Is that right?
Yeah. So the platform, actually, we didn't have to do anything special to add Time to Code to the platform, in the sense that it's a platform that is designed for anybody to add content. You saw this 28,000 publicly shared programming exercises, that because there are different classes, so teachers can actually add their own content. We're not a content we're not a content team, so we don't provide content. Of course, I make content from our own courses. So we built the platform and allow people to add content, share content with each other. And so when we When we met you, this was actually because I was talking to a teacher at CAS who told me you have to talk to these guys. They are called Craig and Dave, and they have these fantastic resources. So it would be a perfect match if this fantastic platform can have this fantastic content. So this is how we actually started talking with each other. And this is what constantly happens. Teachers are looking for solutions that can improve the way they are bringing content to the classroom. They're inspiring us, and then we get in touch with each other. So when I saw your content, I immediately knew, okay, this is something we need, because we don't know the UK market. This is content that is really fit for the UK market, and we can start with the existing content and then add all the classroom features that we can provide in Dodona. So it actually didn't take too much work to add that content to the platform. Because it was so well designed. The only thing we had to add was the underpinnings for the automated feedback. So that's why we now have
all
like
in there as well, isn't it? That's all in there as well. That's all in there as well now. The automated feedback. I think for our chapters 1 through 9, I think 1 through 9 are all in, aren't they? Yeah.
Peter's being very kind. I think the truth is, as you were scraping our content and creating a Git repository for it, which is how you can create code for how you can create content for Dodona, and then putting it into your platform, you had to sort of forensically look at everything that we're doing to check that it was definitely going to work in the way that we thought it was going to work. And as a result of that, you have come up with, I want to say, at least 100 things that I could do with Time to Code to improve each of the challenges one way or another. And I find that really, really valuable. I mean, slightly daunting, I'm going to be honest. I've looked at everything that you've produced as recommendations of how we can improve Time to Code and thought, wow, there's a lot of things I really, really want to do here. Everything from tiny typos, which seem to have been out in the wild for years and years and no one's ever noticed, to some more substantial pedagogical challenges in terms of why we're doing things the way we're doing. I mean, for example, is it appropriate to have a program that has an infinite loop in it or not? And some of these kinds of challenges. So we're going to be looking at Time to Code over the next couple of years and really thinking about those challenges and how we can iron out some of the gremlins, but more importantly, how we can really address some of those deeper concerns. Guys, I have to ask you a little bit about the research that you're doing and the research that has underpinned Dodona and where you're going and what you're doing. Because again, I think this is the thing that's really unique about this. It's not just a platform for coding, but it's built on the foundations of research. And I'm really interested because you are active in the field of research. Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, hard to tell a little bit on that because now you really come to the nice part for me in being in the combination of being a teacher, a platform developer, and having this feedback loop that automatically brings data to the table about what it means to learn programming. And so that's like, for a researcher, that's like a God's gift to start analyzing. So very quickly, so we had Charlotte, for example, who was looking into the data to see if we could learn something about the learning process in terms of like what stops students from becoming a good programmer. So we were able to predict very early on in the learning process. So after week 2, with very high accuracy, we can actually predict who will pass or fail the course. And the good thing about that is that you can still do something about it. And so you can identify students who are in need. And we actually used white box machine learning tools that can also learn what is stopping students, what is helping them. So what are good ways of learning and bad ways of learning? We did this together with fantastic guys in Finland who also repeated the experiment at their university. Same outcomes, very nice learning processes. And now we're actually using this technology and these insights to build dynamic learning paths. Can we actually have personalized learning paths for individual students or individual groups of students?
Wow.
We have Rin who did research on plagiarism detection. So the platform is also used for high-stake tests and exams. Can we actually see students that are learning in, like what you said earlier? So seeing somebody else's solution and understanding that solution is much easier than doing the whole process on your own. I had a colleague in Korea who told me lately that out of 300 students, he had 70 students who had a perfect score on their homework, and they had 0 score on the exam. So that's the impact of the AI. Of course, they were not on their own for doing the homework assignments, and they actually bypassed a very important first step. How do I start on this? And so I analyze the problem and I come up with a solution in my head and then transform it to code. So that's the kind of steps you learn by doing these exercises. If you try to sideskip this, it even blocks you from the very start. So this plagiarism detection is also plagiarism prevention. So I'm using this tool also in class to warn the students. It's like a kind of a mirror. So think about how you're learning. And if you're just copy pasting, Control C, Control V is not a skill that we test on the exam. So that's the tool. One of the nice things is that even the OpenAI researchers are now using this tool in a benchmark to see how good the LLMs are nowadays to solve very daunting machine learning problems, because the machines also can steal solutions from humans in their benchmark. We had Nico, who was doing research on this. Is what was one of my nice projects I love. In how do we provide feedback in an economic way? So what we saw on the platform is that we had an exercise that worked in Java, and then another teacher wanted this exercise in Haskell or in Python, and they kept on copying the exercise. But we all know in computer science, if you're making copies, you should stop yourself. So no code duplication. So the idea was that can we make exercises with automated assessment as ergonomic as possible? So the process itself should be as lightweight as possible. So what you need to do is to provide this automated feedback should not take a lot of your time. And it's also programming language independent. So you create an exercise that can be equally used in all these different programming languages, because you can have like courses where the focus is on the programming itself, and then you typically learn using one language. But you can also have like courses where the focus is on algorithms and data structures or on machine learning, with students coming with different backgrounds. And then it helps as a teacher that you can say, okay, you have to solve the shortest path problem, pick any language that you know, without me as a teacher having to do the provisioning of the feedback in all these different languages. And now Thomas is doing research on the teacher augmented AI. So can we use AI for different parts of the process where teachers invest a lot of time and energy in, and have AI assisted? Develop, do content creation, automated a system. So how do you write software tests, give answers to students, but also the evaluation and the feedback on exams. So that's the kind of research we have been doing ourselves over the years. And of course, other people are also doing research using our platform. So that's also the research community that inspires part of the features that are in the platform.
Yeah, it's crazy because, of course, what you have to remember here, if you're watching, is Dave and I are very keen on everything we produce at Craig and Dave being driven by research. But that means we're going out there and we're reading and digesting the latest research and attending webinars and talks and implementing all the newest stuff. these guys are carrying out the research. I mean, there's a link on their page. You can see 5 or 6 publications and the research and the people who are working on them. So, active product being used in university. It's fantastic. Look, we could talk about this for another couple of hours, but we've already been on here for 35 minutes. I don't want to end if there's anything you're thinking, oh, I desperately had to say this one thing and I wish I'd got it in. Is there any sort of last minute nuggets you want to get in there? Otherwise, I think we will wrap up.
I would just invite everybody who's watching this to actually try out Time to Code on Dodona and provide as much feedback as they have to us or to you, Craig and Dave. We actually are always pleased when we can learn from people that are using our platform to see maybe they have some suggestions, they have some things that are working good for them that are not working that good. More than happy to take the feedback and then make a better product with that.
If people want to explore further then, just tell us where they should go.
So the easiest way is just to go to the website, dodona.be. You can just create an account. And maybe you should also mention this, but to create an account, it's actually fairly simple on Dodona because you just plug in with a single sign-on on the accounts of the schools. So that's another hassle we've taken away for schools. So you just go to the website, dodona.be. You click on login. And then as a teacher, you can request for teacher rights. With these teacher rights, you have access to all the learning analytics, to all the classroom features. You can also have access to sample solutions for all the exercises and the courses. And then with those teacher rights, you can just create your own copy of Time to Code, add your students, and get started.
Perfect. And as mentioned earlier, there is really quite a detailed walkthrough video demonstration of the features of the product on the website as well. So we're going to leave it there for today. Thank you very much for both joining us. And I'm going to leave you all with my favourite quote today from Peter, which is, "We don't test copy and paste in the exam."